Hello again, we're in Edinburgh's Newtown today and we're on our way to find out more about that 200,000-year-old beast you heard about last week. The beast that every seller and every marketeer needs to know about in order to maximise your influence.
Now, there was one man, in fact, he was a famous novelist, one of the most published novelists in the last 300 years, even though he died at the relatively young age of 44. Well, he was that intrigued by the beast that he decided to write a novel to explore the very topic.
He wrote some other books, you might have heard of them. Treasure Island, Kidnapped.
But this one book, well, it was so iconic that it's now become firmly embedded in our language to describe the very duality in human nature.
And that includes the nature of your buyers. Here's his house, just up ahead. We are, of course, outside the house of Robert Louis Stevenson, and the book we're talking about is The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll
and Mr. Hyde. Now, I'm sure you'll agree it's a fantastic novel if you've read it. However, if it wasn't for an encounter that Stevenson had with his wife, it might have been a very, very different story.
Stevenson had poured his heart out for days writing this story, and he came down one morning and shared the manuscript with his wife. And his wife read it, but Stevenson didn't get the reaction they expected. She said, "This is rubbish. This is a piece of sensationalism."
Now, Stevenson was absolutely livid, as you can imagine. He stormed off. But when he reappeared a short while later, he was a much calmer man, and he said to his wife, "You're right, I've missed the message." Now, if it wasn't for that argument, this might not have been the work it is that truly explores the duplicity of human nature in all of us.
And it's that duplicity that exists in every one of your buyers' minds and affects how they think. And you're about to find out a bit more about that right now. Okay, I can hear the beasts just up ahead.
Now, the duality that springs to mind when most people think about Jekyll and Hyde is good versus evil. But of course, Stevenson was looking at the full spectrum of the human persona, the logical human versus the emotional animal or beast. And to understand that beast, we're going to have to dip into our evolutionary past.
There they are up here. Now, it was only one evolutionary second ago that these chimps and humans shared a common ancestor. Now, in his book, The Chimp Paradox, Professor Stephen Peters has got a fantastic model where it represents your emotional mind with a chimp and your more rational mind with a human. Now, that chimp is immensely powerful. That's the decision maker. And if you can tap in to the stimuli that that chimp is sensitive to, you can really take advantage of that and power your buyers to take action in your favour. Here you are, there's the chimp and there's the human. This represents the mind of your buyer. Now there's the emotional mind and there's the rational mind. Now this emotional mind has been about for hundreds of thousands of years. This rational mind, typically much newer. In fact, the part of the brain that controls this rationale is called the neocortex, the new cortex part of the mind. And in the book Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, it was this bit, Mr. Hyde, that was totally out of control. So this was an exaggerated exploration of this duality that really does exist in all of your minds and all of your buyers' minds. And if you know how to stimulate this mind, you can get an amplification factor, because this mind here is at least 5 times more powerful than this human here. It's there for your survival, so it's very sensitive to anything that might go wrong in its life, that might threaten in any way. And because it's there for your survival, it hates complexity and it loves everything to be simple. So you better make sure that your messages are simple. And here's a biggie that everyone can use quite quickly. This emotional mind here is looking to advise your human of a safe path compared to an unsafe path. And if you can visually show both of these paths side by side, it's much easier for this chimp to make the right choice. So you can use that right now. There's a whole lot of other stimuli. Let's just go over them. It's very visual, usually simple things that are concrete, like this picture. It's interested in sex, of course, because that's all to do with survival of the species. Richard Branson has been using that to sell his brand for 20 years now. It's sensitive to key language, usually short, concrete words that's easy to visualize. it's sensitive to movement, and it loves passion. So when you hear Keenan or Gary Vaynerchuk sharing their message, you're attracted to it. It's not just because it's a great message, it's because they're sharing it with total belief. And you've got mirror neurons inside your head that mirror that you feel a bit of that passion, and it feels good and you want more of it. So you can use that as well in your sales conversations. And it's interested in tribe. That means it's interested in things and people like itself. So in your world, your buyer is typically not so interested in you because you're not like it. But it is interested in other people, other customers of yours. So when you're talking about your products and services and what they can do, you should be using examples of your other customers rather than you doing things. So we will give you examples of how to use all of these in your sales conversations and your documentation. So please stay tuned.